Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy you joined us here, and this is Conversations with a Goddess. I know that every woman has lived a powerful story, and our stories are quite often overlooked and excluded by our culture. Therefore, my intention is that these conversations with wonderful women, with goddesses, will serve as a greater awakening to the awareness of our own unique power as women individually and as a collective. Today, I'm so grateful to be having a conversation with an amazing goddess, Cynthia Alfaro, who is the Chief Operations Officer of an incredible organization here in Chicago, My Block, My Hood, My City. She's a visionary leader with a dream to help people achieve their highest potential and a dream to make Chicago an even more amazing city. She's also a single mom of 2 daughters and shares her empowerment blog called Mom's Winning. Cynthia, I feel like I won the lotto with you saying yes to me, especially since I know your time is so precious and you are doing such big work. So thank you for taking an hour today, or maybe less, just to be with me and just to share your work and your journey. So
Thanks for having me.
it's just such a pleasure. So I'm really also excited for everyone to learn more about My Block, My Hood, My City. And so I'd love for you just to share about the powerful mission and vision of My Block, My Hood, My City. So everybody, I thought I could share it, but oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's so much more powerful to hear it from you.
yeah, and we are growing as we're going. So when you go to our website, like we have city-sized dreams, as I say, with a team of 6. So it's a lot that we actually produce. But when I look back at the story, this is usually how I explain it to people. But My Block, My Hood, My City was born out of Jamal volunteering at a juvenile detention center here in Chicago and realizing that we knew that there was a different life experience growing up if you are Black and brown in Chicago, but it was just so evident that what you can see, you can be for young people. Okay. So he was finding that the young people, one, weren't paying attention to him in everything he wanted to say. So he invited them in to kind of say, well, tell me a little bit about you, where you're from. And so they would always rep their hood and rep their block. And so he was just like, yeah, well, what about your city? Or what about beyond your block? Aren't we all here together? And they, kind of just said, no, this is not my city. This is, there's not a real welcoming feeling in certain neighborhoods for certain young people. So Jamal immediately, came up with a solution, and that was the Explorers program. The Explorers program was born out of that. And the Explorers program is essentially a exposure-based experience. And the solution is so simple. I think many people initially, and even funders, because let's remember, My Block, My Hood, My City is at a different place now than what it used to be. So back in the day, nobody would even send him money. It was really the people that helped build My Block, My Hood, My City, because the solution, I think, was too simple. Like, oh, you want to take young people out on field trips? Pass. It was too simple. And there's no, for us, there's not a scientific algorithm. That's not what you're going to find. It's not going to be so deep and complex that everyday people can't get it, because that's not going to work for us. So the Explorers program, we pick up young people after school, and if we have a cohort at a school, we commit to 1 exploration a month. So we're at 9 schools, or we were
Awesome.
last year. So we did 9 explorations a month, which doesn't sound like maybe huge to some people. They're expecting, like, I need 300 schools, I need 7,000 students you're touching. For us, one, that's just not going to create as much impact. It's not just about the numbers, but it's about how deep you go and kind of the experiences you're creating. So in each cohort, there is about anywhere from 12 to 15 young people. So we'll pick them up, say it's Collins Academy, their exploration is on Wednesday. We'll go there after school, pick them up, and maybe we'll take them to Google, right? And they're our host organization. So Jamal literally would just send LinkedIn messages to corporations or companies and tell them, he was this original salesman, and he still is the first salesman for My Block, My Hood, My City. So, and he would get enough people to say, yeah, I'll host your group. And essentially it's on-site mentoring. A lot of people think organizations are just like doing us a favor, but we're also adding value here, right? Because there's the employee engagement piece, there's mentoring piece, there's a pipeline piece, right? There's an exchange happening here, right? And so the experience is supposed to not just be 3 hours of talking heads, but also a hands-on experience. So if we go to Mccormick Foundation, I made the suggestion one time last year, I said, well, give them a case study, like give them $50,000 and then have them look at grants, or grant proposals. Where would they spend the money? How would they decipher? What's their matrix of decision making, right? For young people, you have to be able to apply it to their real life, right? And sometimes adultism is real. And so we all kind of sometimes just miss it, like, oh wait, yeah, young people, they're not interested in listening to me for 3 hours. So that's the Explorers program, and we drive them home, right? Door-to-door service is really important to us because, one, for safety. So we don't want to drop our kids off back in their neighborhoods at 9 o'clock at night. And sometimes our explorations go long, right? We usually eat together afterwards, if not on, with the host organization, because we feel like breaking bread together usually loosens people up and allows more organic conversations to be had. And so then we'll drive them home, and that's where camaraderie will happen, right? Reflection will happen. And so this last school year, we were way more resourced than we were in the previous school year. So that's good because we hired somebody to do the work. The Explorers program ended up now being kind of like one side of the house is youth development, right? The other side is community development. So as the Explorers program grew, it also different flowers, if you will. So over the summertime, we do youth-led tours, which just kicked off this last week, and we're so excited. So basically, simply put, it's 2.5 hours walking in North Lawndale, right? And it's led by a dozen young people. So they are the walking tour guides, but it's not just a walking, just tour guide, just one person speaking to you, but we kind of set it up so people walk away knowing each other. You know each other by name, you've laughed, maybe you've done a little TikTok dance that we recorded with you. We're doing this, one, give our youth something to do over the summer. Two, put money in their pocket. You can't talk about equality or equity without economics, a conversation
yes,
about
ma'am.
economics.
Yep.
We're also changing, working on leadership skills, presentation skills. We know those last a lifetime. And lastly, we're changing the narrative. And the only way we're going to do that is, one, by just offering an opportunity to share stories so that mindsets can shift, right? Paradigms can shift. And so that's why we make sure the adult to youth ratio is 2-to-1, so that as we're walking from one stop to another, conversations are being had, and you can't miss it. So we've had beautiful emails written to us after our tours, right? To say, man, it's really changed my approach, my perspective. Now when I listen to the news, I'm not just seeing it for how they're showing it to me. I'm also thinking about Ashanti and what she said, or Marquel and what he shared with me. And that's the way we change the narrative, right? Otherwise, people are only going to listen to what the media and news will tell them. And we know there's a lot more. It's an asset-based approach to the west side of Chicago, showing off the gems. And it's even improved. I mean, we've had some reflections from our young people too, to say, I've never even talked about my neighborhood like this, right? So there's good work happening there. This summer, specifically, something new that we're doing is this Youth Senior Connect, where we are, ever since COVID hit, we took care of our seniors, sent them groceries, did wellness calls, right? And so this summer, we're employing about 100 young people to do these calls for us. It's a little rocky because it's never been done before. It's all virtual, it's young people, but we are partnering with Rush. And we actually built a curriculum. Yeah, we built a curriculum so that they go through training and walk away from this summer with actual credentials, skills to build into a healthcare profession should they choose. And so one of my favorite principals, Ms. Sharp at Collins Academy, who has done a phenomenal, she's probably somebody who you should invite to your podcast. She's a goddess for real. She says, you know, my young people, some of them just need shorter goals. Like, talk to me today about what can be done next week. That 4-year college dream is far reaching for some who are dealing with real life scenarios in their face. And so this is a great way to like have a shorter goal, right? So we're really excited about that. On the other side of the house is community development. That was born out of the One Block at a Time program. Jamal firmly believes democracy starts at the block level, right? Don't wait for your mayor to change, your alderman to change. What's something simple you can do, right? And so one block at a time, every year, we essentially bring on 30 new block clubs and provide them training and resources for the entire year. So that not only includes financial resources, I'm so sorry about that, financial resources that will help to them in organizing their gatherings, but also the citywide volunteer events, right, which we're really known for. So we're gathering the whole city on corners of the south and west sides that maybe you've never been to before, and you're a lifelong Chicagoan, right? And so that's been a very successful program. Last year, we were able to partner with Facebook and do some technology training, because what you'll find is in our block clubs is that there is a good amount of elderly who aren't necessarily like double tapping on Instagram, right? So, but we know how big of a resource it is in this day and age to be connected to your neighbors on technology. So we did that last year, and we want to continue to just provide support to these already existing assets of the community. So that's why Jamal didn't want to necessarily build something that wasn't there. People are already organizing and already involved in wanting to do, taking care of their neighborhood. We just want to accentuate that, right? And provide more resources to that. Out of that work, you have our 5K that was first ever last year, which was cool. This year it's virtual, of course. We also did Be a Part of the Light program, which I don't know if you know that one, but
I read about that. I mean, right? Okay, so talk more about
so
that.
Good,
That's
so
beautiful
good.
too.
Really, Jamal just calls me and has an idea, and I'm always
I was gonna say,
go do it. You know, I'm so that person where I'm just like, absolutely, let's get this.
And thank heaven for that. You know, I'm talking into Mike. Thank heaven for that.
Yeah, I mean, because he's a great innovator, a great creator, and I think it's really important to have support, really intentional and accurate, appropriate support around him, right? To allow the talent to just kind of go forth. And so with Be Part of the Light, there's disparity. You can see Mag Mile lit up gloriously. It's like you've walked into a winter wonderland. Well, look at the south side of Chicago, Mlk Drive, King Drive, one of the most historic streets in every city, and usually the poorest. So why is there such disparity, and why is it okay? Just like Jamal says, it's not regular. That's not regular, right? It shouldn't be our normal. We shouldn't be okay with it. And so we are not professional holiday lighters. We are not professional decorators, none of this, right? And so, but we usually have an idea, and then we just rely on our volunteers to help us get it done. And so we started an Amazon wish list, and donations started coming. And essentially it's a December series of volunteer events, right? So we have at least 3 or 4, and people come, get in groups of 5 or 6, grab a box of decorations. We give them an address of someone who we've negotiated with, right? We don't just pop up on people, but people who have allowed us to decorate their house, and then they get to it for the next hour or 2. I mean, and it's just that simple. Again, what's something simple you can do to have a positive impact on your community? One of Jamal's, right, key catchphrases. And so that is what we do. Last year, we were able to even rent a 30-foot Christmas tree. I'm sure it's going to be a 50-foot one this year. We were able to have like hot chili and a gift giveaway. The governor, the mayor, officials came and supported. So it was a huge success. This December will be the 3rd year. And fingers crossed that we'll have some restrictions, but we'll still be able to get it done. But so that's how I kind of that's how I orientate people to us. There are kind of like two sides of the house here. We have the COVID response, which really would fall under our community development. So when COVID hit, we sent out groceries to our seniors every week. And when we were then blocked from getting into the groceries ourselves, we hired somebody to do Instacart orders one by one, if you could imagine. Again, city-sized dreams, but just a team of 6. And I'm always like, can't wait for the day like we get connected to like suppliers or somebody up who can help us get this done, right? Because it's about access and resources. We have good ideas, but sometimes what gets in the way is just not having access to certain things, or maybe asking, right? People come to us and ask for things, but we should also be creative and intentional about our asks too. So that's kind of how, it's a lot, I know, but the good news is I did hire 5 people in the last 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so that has helped us as, you know, as we get people on board. I think it'll definitely bear fruit in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, as you're speaking, I just feel this wave of love behind you. Like, you know, like, how is this bleep getting done? Like, you know, I was sharing with you earlier, like my son and I on Saturday wanted to deliver PPEs, right? We signed up, we were so excited, and I said it was like Black Friday. I should have gotten there at like 4 a.m. and lined up, because my son was like, it was overwhelming, the number of cars. And I thought, we were both like, how did they do this? Like, how did they do this? You know, and this is the power really of, you know, I mean, President Obama talked about community organizing, grassroots, going, you know, you like hiring somebody to do Instacart when you can't get in, you know what I mean? It's like, solutions can be really simple, right? And at the same time, I heard Governor Cuomo of New York say the other day in one of his talks, love always wins. Love always wins. And like, I just feel like love is just behind you guys, you know? And it's so great that you've got this passion and vision too, but you're also the linear, you know, you're like, okay, Jamal, and reeling it in and then structuring it so that it's this very solid foundation. I mean, the cars, it was so organized. Ram was like, my son is Ram. He was like, here's the map, you know, you guys, everything, the Google Doc, you know, I mean, the whole thing, it was meticulous. There is nothing that's not precise about what you guys are doing, which is like, I mean, it could have been total chaos, you know, and it was great. And I was like, whoa, we're speeding up here. And I was like, I don't know, that we were really not speeding up before. And so I knew that we obviously weren't going to make it. And there was a lovely, lovely young man there. And he was like, thank you so much to each car. And there must have been 100 cars behind us, right? At least.
Wonderful.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Next time we're going to do it even bigger. And I was like, great, awesome. So happy, you know, and like, so, I'm so happy for everyone to hear about all that you're doing, because, you know, resources, you know, time, treasure, talent, right? You guys need it all. And the fact that you've hired 5 people means, you know, you can use more donations and funding. So all the people out there listening, my wheels are turning, let your wheels start turning. And
thank you.
You know, and
it's interesting, because I think a lot of people will have that experience like you did and not realize that we are such a small and young organization. So I come from a corporate world. So my background started off in corporate human resources at Pepsi out east. So then I pivoted to education in the alternative schools. And then once I came home, I got into the nonprofit space. So definitely not a cookie cutter background, but that was by design. And it was meant to be, right? Because now I'm in this position where I can showcase all those skills. But so I say all that to say, when I'm solving these problems, I'm like, okay, you know what? We have some hiccups. We have some moments where big companies expect us to be able to show up just like that, right? And we miss. And we miss and fall sometimes. And so then we have to have a conversation about understanding and grace and kindness and just kind of, I know you see us on Instagram and we're at like 64,000, followers. We're growing as we're going right now. We're learning as we're living. So that is, I usually ask for grace from people because I know we're not getting back to all of our emails. I know my team has been certainly swamped the last 7 weeks, and managing everything else, right? Like I have 2 kids at home, right, who are not in summer camp, right? So, I mean, we just have to remember grace and kindness are free. And if we want to really be about movements, it's going to be, money is certainly a big help, but it's also just how we treat each other every day, and stopping our own knee-jerk assumptions or reactions to things and saying, let me ask further for understanding about this situation and not just immediately jump to my conclusion. So we thank every follower, every person who's donated. We do the mail every week and we get handwritten notes and they're all beautiful. Have we gotten back to everyone yet? No, we haven't, right? And so we are organizing to get people in place to help us do all that work. So we are just humbled and certainly very grateful to everybody who has just been patient with us.
Though, grace and kindness, and you guys are scrappy. I mean, you're like a startup, right? Except
100%.
but a startup with extraordinary heart. And I think, people write thank you notes because they feel the love and they want to be connected to what you guys are doing.
And they are.
So, right? And I mean, I have to say, looking at the videos on YouTube, reading about all the different initiatives, I mean, you can't help but like love it, and so you can't help but show up, so it's and yeah, I'm sure everybody listening is in awe too. So so let's talk about the last 7 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. Because the communities you all are serving have been hardest hit by COVID-19, and obviously centuries of devastating systemic racism. Mm-hmm. So, and you just described how you guys are really serving those communities, and you always have. What are some of the things you've seen that really, I mean, you've described the things that give you hope, but also some of the things that you feel, I mean, maybe that's obvious, but some of the things that you feel really need greater awareness, greater understanding, support. I mean, it's a deeper conversation, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the great things about our youth-led tours is that it shares some of that insight. And I think it's absolutely, I'm encouraged, as at the same time devastated, right? But I am encouraged because the type of awareness that we've witnessed over the last 7.5 weeks is what is needed and necessary, and not just for this moment in time, but next July too. And the next July after that, and the next, and not to let this just be a moment in time, but let this be a new wave that just, sets the shore at a different level. But with our youth-led tours, what I love about it is that we talk about the West Side of Chicago being a food desert, right? Yes. Like, these are the things that, yes, our programs, I think obviously there was no way for us to anticipate that we would have such a surge after the death of George Floyd, but the issues that are bubbling up, or the heightened awareness that's bubbling up from that devastating event, is stuff that we kind of already knew and had been supporting, but that when you think about the economics, the access, one of our stops, the access to resources, one of our stops on the tour is the Mlk Legacy Apartments, where, I mean, back in the day, before they were apartments like they are today, Mlk actually lived there, and he was fighting for fair and equitable housing rights, and because redlining was going on. So in that apartment, there's actually a little museum where it talks about the redlining that was going on. And so these are the things that people need to be aware of, instead of just seeing what you see without kind of doing the investigative work, or seeing what you see and hearing the rumbling, but not thinking anything to it, but just doing the homework, doing the work. Because there are all, usually the communities that have been most impacted by it have already done the work. They already know. It's all, they have to deal with it every day. So it's really on the other, groups to get more aware and more educated on what's going on. And I think our tours do that, to educate. And I think they resonate more now than ever, understanding like, why are there food deserts? That's ridiculous. Or access to housing, or access, to home loans and jobs. So, I mean, that's kind of like, I think, and even with our Explorers program, I think about it, because now we've pivoted. After our first month or so, I, was like, hey, let's just start to put funding. Let's think about our programs for the next, beyond just a year. But the Explorers program needs to exist for a very long time, to help our young people have the same access to resources, especially growing up. That's the whole thing, is that they don't. A lot of them, many of them have never been downtown, to the lake, to Willis Tower. They've never been to the West Loop. They don't know what you mean when you say up north, or anything like that. So that's where the problem is. That's where the disparity is. And so our Explorers program is all about creating, it's a simple solution. It's not a magic wand. We're not solving everything here, but we are a player in the mix. And somebody who's writing a policy, and somebody who's talking to some CEO, we're all going to have a part to play in this. And this is our part. And there needs to be more resources for programs like ours, right? That supports schools, and supports young people getting beyond their school and their neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys are creating bridges, right? So
Correct.
you got all these cars in line, right? Who are going to deliver PPE. No, really. Like, I was like, have I ever been to Douglas Park? Like, WTF? Like, I have not. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's such a
why have, and it's beautiful, right? So, I mean, and the bottom line is driving around the neighborhoods, right? And delivering, that's a bridge.
Yeah.
That's a bridge, because you got people from the near north side, Lincoln Park, who are definitely in that line. You got people from, I don't know, there were out-of-state plates. There were plates from Iowa. The woman in front of us, her plate was from Wisconsin. You know what I mean? So you got people from around who may not even be familiar with Chicago, and who are driving to deliver things to people in neighborhoods and connect with other humans. That's the thing, right? So it's like this bridges that you're building, right? Because it's okay for me to read White Fragility, totally. Listen to our hour-long talk. It's great. But until, any number of things that I've been doing to, as I said to my girlfriend, to feel like I'm repenting, like that. But the bottom line is, really what counts is the relationships and the conversations, and we begin to see one another again, like we're human. We're like,
absolutely.
Right. And I love you. And like, I don't want you to, it's not, there are a lot of things that have to happen, but
Yeah.
I think one of the things, the beginning is connection. Like, I'm delivering something to someone, and we have a moment of that, So anyway, I think there's so much that can happen from that. So yeah, so let's pivot a little bit to your being a mama of two girls who aren't in camp, and like, it takes a village, right? Yeah. And I know from my own personal journey, my life journey, that I came to a deeper understanding of my connection to spirit, and my work through through some very difficult challenges, right? So and I don't necessarily think that has to be the way for everybody. My intention would be to, and the intention of what you're doing is to create less suffering. to create more access, to create more opportunity, to create more goodness, right? So I don't think we have to suffer to grow. But anyway, having said that, I'm wondering if you can, are there times in your life where you had hardship and well, I mean, just 2 calls in 30 minutes is
Yeah, but I don't
it's
even
not
know how to
easy.
turn
Like,
this off
it's
on
not-
my computer. I don't know how to do
but I mean, so like the struggle, and I mean just the day to day. I mean, how with your 2 girls and wanting to create a different life for them, and having support. I mean, so what's happening for you amidst all this in the past,
Yeah.
since March and maybe earlier.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely, I experienced what every other parent was experiencing, which was like panic, stress. E-learning was rough, even though we were blessed to even have that option. But it was a struggle filled with tears for both parties for like 8-9 weeks. And by the time we finally had a rhythm, it was over. And then, but I think, what I leaned on the most and I'm most thankful for is that my entry into motherhood was pretty rough. So I was in an unhealthy relationship. It was an abusive situation. And I was out in New York, far away from family. I was the first in my friend group to have children. So there was a little bit of a disconnect, right? Because people didn't want to talk about poop or go to the park. They wanted to go to brunch, and understood. And so it was a big struggle for me. And that was the first time I had experienced any of that in my life ever. So it took me a second to kind of like figure out what to do and how to navigate my way out of it. And I think I did a really great job, given that I exited out as quickly as I could, but not without many tears, many hard nights, and many struggles at the family court, that's a whole other
Oh God, yes.
struggle. But so the first 7 years in New York, I was single without kids. The second 7 were with kids and navigating, trying to get help from, a situation that wasn't going to be helpful for me. And so it started with an eyelid that kept on jumping, while I was
the twitching.
driving.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it became, a heart rate that goes faster as I am trying to go to sleep. And then it became a panic attack. And I just never had experienced it before. And all of my friends and what I consider family members in New York will tell you, like, I was doing a phenomenal job given everything I was doing, doing more, quote unquote, more maybe than people who had more resources than me. Because there were a couple moments where I was unemployed, right? And figuring it out. And so that still doesn't mean it was sustainable. And I knew it was like not sustainable. I was just kind of hoping things would change. And then they didn't. It's kind of like when your higher power gives you a knock at the door and you're like, hold on, I'm gonna get to it. And the knock becomes like, I'm just gonna kick in this door for you. Right. And that was the moment that happened for me. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna have to leave. And that concept, though I can speak about it so easily now, it was so big, I couldn't even tell anybody about it. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't, I just would have to go to sleep. And then the next day I told my neighbor, who was like a sister to me, and then we just kind of like, I was like, but I need help. I can't, for me, a person who knows how to get everything done, I need help from one step to another. I have no idea how this would work. I don't have a job. I don't have savings. I don't have, where do I live when I go there? I've been gone for so long. I just needed to be closer to my support system. And so long story short, I ended up getting here. My friends gave me money to kind of, bridge the gap between me finding something. And within 30 days, I was sitting reading a bedtime story to my girls in their own room. And previously, I didn't even have a room in our last apartment in the Bronx. So I was like sleeping in the living room. So, I mean, in 30 days to have all this shift, I was just like, okay, that's magic. That is magic, right? And we get to those moments where you're at the top of the trampoline, or not the trampoline, but I forgot the one
Diving board? What's the trapeze?
Trapeze. And you kind of don't want to jump, even though that there's a safety net there, and you're like, oh, am I going to swing and make it to the other swing? I'm not sure. But there is this ability to do it if you are brave enough to jump, right? And so that was my jump moment, because I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating. I was praying I didn't have any more panic attacks, but the point was I couldn't risk everything that I had done to protect and get these girls. I wasn't gonna, be led out of my apartment in a straitjacket, right? Because I'm not attending to what I need, right? So we made it back here, but what I learned through all of that rough experience, I was able to call upon during this time, because here we are, COVID, stranded in the house, and I was like, oh, I mean, like, this is terrible. But I feel like I have some tools that I've learned before. I learned how to meditate, number one, first thing in the morning, to get myself centered and get my mind on the right trajectory. Number two, just having fun with the simple things, because kids, mine are 9 and 10 now, but back then they were babies. They're only 16 months apart. So I really did not care to get excited about a leaf. But the moment I could, that's when the hours went by quicker, right? Because my struggle was like, I just don't want this situation. I don't want to I don't want to have to do all this. But the moment I could get my mind around it and figure out a way to win, right? Visualize this, I was able to get excited about it. And so when I meet people today and I'm like, I know it's crazy. Why would I get excited about, I don't know, a flower blooming? But my kids are excited about it. So the more I can kind of get into their world, the more I can kind of get them into my world. And then we got a flow going on, right? So simple things, less is more. There were a lot of times when I was a new mom and I couldn't do anything and everybody was doing everything. Going to Africa, going to Italy, and I was just like, feeling stranded, right? But I wanted to be content. I wanted to not let my joy be on the other side of something. So I had to pull it in and realize I have everything I need. And I would start to, affirmations is also what I do. Like, I'll just post things up and say it to myself 100 times over, the way I want to feel, right? In present tense. These are things that have worked for me, and this is what I tell other people. But meditation, affirmations, fitness is really important to me. So I would do circuit trainings in my living room while my kids were like crawling over me, because I was like, nope, even if I am 20 pounds overweight, I know I need to do it just for my heart and mind, because we get those endorphins. Now, I used to play tennis back in the day, so I know all about this, and I know it's a natural antidepressant, right? So instead of taking a pill, I'm trying to just walk or run for 15 minutes. So this is a tool these are all tools that I've been able to just rely upon during this time. It has been hard, especially with the e-learning piece, right? Or because my kids were struggling. My kids were struggling with it. They were not excited about it. I value teachers, but I hope everybody walks away from this valuing teachers a little bit more, because our children really need those ambassadors for learning to say, oh, Fraction Friday, let's get excited. And parents really don't have that sometimes. We're not led, that's not our ministry.
Exactly.
That's not what we did. Now, I think I was able to flex because I actually have an interest in doing my background in training and development. So it's not totally different, but even so, yeah, it's been a rough period of time, but it's made us stronger. And then I've just used those moments with my kids to build their strength up and their mental toughness, right? Because this is something hard, but we got to get it done. So even if it means tears or struggling, we're just going to have to see and just see them through it. But the summertime, it's been better because they've been able to take a break. But then I was slammed with work for the last like 7.5 weeks. So that's been a struggle at times, But I just try to use those simple tools of eating healthy, fitness, meditation, affirmations, and appreciating the simple things. What do you, yeah, just what are the things? Less is more. Even if like we couldn't travel to Italy, which is not something I've ever done before, but I'm just saying that to be extreme. But like, what could we do right now? We can go on our patio. Oh, let's do that then. Let's have a party on our patio, And I'm so fortunate my kids are still at that age where they would actually
like a party. Yeah, exactly. Like a party on the patio.
Right. Versus like,
and you know what?
A teenager or something.
Well, no, I think they'll probably always like a party on the patio because their mama likes, you know what I mean? I mean, I think when the kids are really connected, that everything's okay. Again, when the love is really there, they know like everything's going to be all right. Party on the patio is fabulous.
There have been some benefits, I'll tell you this though, during COVID, because I think before what I struggled with the most as a single parent was the strict schedule. A lot of people do this better than I do, but like getting them to school on time, picking them up, and they got to get to bed. And so I would get them to bed for sure. I've always had like a really good bedtime routine with them. But getting them to school on time, I would struggle. And like people would judge me on the way there, like seeing me walking to the school, like they've had, a couple looks, maybe the secretary said something to me one time or another, but I'm just like, I'm doing my best. And they are arriving with smiles though. And so I can only do my best, but those have led to some tearful mornings for me. So actually not having all of that for a second has actually allowed my stress of that to go away. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not like, hurry up, I gotta get you to the gymnastics. It's really more of a flow, like let's go with the flow of things. So that's been a big benefit. And I think we've been in a better flow with each other because of it.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating time, right? I mean, we've been very fortunate just to be more present, and I feel like everybody started walking slowly, like the middle of April, right? And I look outside, people are like kissing. I feel like we're in Italy, you know what I mean? So like, I'm just like, wow, people actually have time to walk, so
families walking down the block together. I mean,
yeah.
When's the last time you've seen that ever?
Exactly.
Never.
So I think there's been a lot of deep healing, a lot of deep healing. So, you've touched on it, feminine leadership, female leadership. I mean, you're obviously an extraordinary female leader. I mean, I was like, wow, can I just hang out with Cynthia? Like will you let a 57-year-old shadow you, Jamal would be like, what is this old lady doing in the background here? What's she up to, man? She's free. We don't have to pay her. But anyway, so I mean, I would love if you have any thoughts on, being a woman at this time, leading. I mean, first of all, I want to say you speak so powerfully.
Thank you.
And I mean, you share your own story and the story of my block, my hood, my city. I mean, you need to be in front of the camera more, okay? We need to see you with those hundred. How many 100,000 people? How many people on Instagram now? 100 and. Okay, those people need to see you, Cynthia. Okay. I mean, I was scrolling through. I'm like, she's not here. So I could send a little email to Jamal. Dear Jamal, start here. So anyway, yeah, any thoughts on that? I mean, you're raising these two girls who definitely are watching you, and I mean, how it's quite something to watch a mother love her children enough and herself enough and have the resources. There's a lot of grace and resources that were available to you so you could make a change. A lot of women, can't necessarily see their way out, and if there's an intervention, then they can somehow take the next step. You know, there's not enough resources for women who are in situations where there's either, you know, physical, emotional abuse, right? So your daughter saw you in 30 days create a more amazing life for them. So I'd love if you have anything on, you know, like.
Yeah, certainly. So when that situation happened, it was a new experience for me, and I kind of faulted myself. You know, I feel like a lot of women in unhealthy scenarios, whether it be, you know, any abusive relationship, but there's some level of shame or guilt because you feel like, well, how did this happen? You know, how was I tricked or manipulated, or, you know, what did I miss? What did I miss? And sometimes it's not that at all, right? And so I really have been on more of a spiritual journey, and I think my faith has really allowed me to kind of come together in all of my moments, and in particular that one, because I couldn't even gather myself enough to get to church like I had used to with both my kids, because I mean, it like took 3 hours to get everybody ready, and by the time that happened, I was tired and we wouldn't even get out of the house, right? So I mean, I really started to go within, which is something that you had mentioned, just like being more present and aware and strengthening my core on the inside. But definitely resources. I felt like I was given this story for a reason, right? They usually say, you know, that your experience, it wasn't for you, actually. It's actually for every other person that needs to hear it. So don't hide it. Don't not say it. Don't, you know, try to pretend it didn't happen. It happened. I've worked really hard, especially over the last, I mean, I'm so sorry. I would have
I
been.
was like, is that me? Wow.
Oh, it's me. I would have been here in August. It'll be 4 years, but it took a lot of work, healing, therapy, taking care of myself. I mean, I had PTSD, and people
For sure.
aren't aware of this, but you know, like these are the things that people are dealing with, right? And I'm not the only one. Heaven's sake.
No.
I'm
Yeah,
just
they
afraid
say
not to
one in.
share it.
Yeah, they say 1 in 3 probably. You know, 1 in 3 women, and you know, I think. I mean, I could talk to you forever, so I'm not gonna riff on something else for our next conversation.
That's
For
right.
sure.
You got
So
it.
I want to just end with like, what is your vision for? You know, I mean, it can be global. Your vision for your girls, your vision for my block, my hood, my city, and yes, this has to keep going, right? But I mean, do you guys have I mean, global dreams, as you say, or what do you beyond the
Yeah,
city?
for sure. Absolutely. I mean, I think from a My Block perspective, it's definitely to expand, but also to go deep. Since we're such a young organization, we need to get better at what we're doing. So deeper into Chicago, and also think about what would need to be in place to expand if we were to go to other cities, and what have you. As far, you know, I think for me, and kind of just touching upon your last question too, feminine power or leadership, I mean, I think what I try to do with my girls is that I have to model the way for them, right? So as they see me in all of my struggles, or how hard I'm working, or taking care of myself, whether it be a run, they know fitness is really important to me. I used to do family fitness classes because that's all I could do with them, because I had to do something with them. And so then they would pretend that they were doing fitness classes with their friends. Like, you know, so they're picking up on all of our images. But my hope and my dream, I think, as I'm learning, as I'm going, we've been socialized a certain way, certainly as women, right? So I'm having to re-educate myself in some ways, right? Speaking up, advocating for myself, or just being even using a bit more finesse when I'm trying to be strategic to get things done. Understanding that we are gifts, we are the needed gifts. You know, I just listened to a TED Talk not too long ago, and it was like the world needs a mother right now. right? And there is something great about that, something that a perspective of self-sacrifice. Because if you're a mom, so when you speak to people who are not parents, especially about parenting, you're kind of like, oh, right, you don't know what it's like to get up at 3 to a vomiting child, or something like that. That really is like stuff you don't want to really have to do, but you do it because of the love, right? And so that level of self-sacrifice, that level of emotional intelligence, knowing how to read the room, these are all things that I think women do well at least this is what I felt like my gifts have been, certainly in all of my spaces, and certainly right now. But stepping into your power, I coach my children now on how to just make sure that they're speaking up for themselves. Right. They can sense when things are wrong, or a friend is trying to cheat them, or somebody's not being nice to them. And so how to navigate those spaces so that they feel like they've honored themselves. And it doesn't always mean it has to be a war. Sometimes the best decision is to walk away. But how do you just honor yourself in those moments so you don't walk away feeling like, oh, I just had to eliminate myself to get out? How do you navigate to honor what you value, represent yourself well, and make a good decision that's for you? Healthy decisions, just healthy decisions. And sometimes that means walking away from people, walking away from situations, or stepping up for yourself, pushing yourself out of your own comfort zone. Say, I'm about to have this tough conversation to negotiate this because I think that's what's right. But being brave at the end of the day and loving yourself no matter what. I have my children, I try to get them to do just affirmations every day, because you're going to grow up and the world is going to tell you you're wrong, you're ugly, you're ridiculous. And so you need enough inside already built up to kind of say, oh, you're a liar, and go through with it, and go through living. So that's kind of how my hope, at least for them, is that they're able to take on what this world is going to give them in a way that they feel honored and respected.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They're going to be amazing women. Yeah, I totally see it. They're going to be, amazing. Right? So, it gives me so much hope. And that really is what gives me hope, is seeing these younger kids, doing this great work that's necessary. Yeah. And their operating system, being the age that I am, my son's, right, I had him when I was 38. So, his operating system is pretty much 2 generations behind mine, right? So he's just like, Mom, what are you talking about? Who are these people that are your age, man? It's just a very, and I think the other thing is to raise our children to be intact. That they're born with this brilliance, and if we can keep that brilliance intact, then they can feel themselves, then they know what they want to do. And as you say, and affirmations, and knowing, as you say, somebody says something yeah, that's your thing, that's not my thing, right? Yeah. And I think for young women, the girls to be as young as they are and learning about what's theirs, what's not theirs, and to have those healthy awareness on how to communicate and boundaries is huge. I'm still learning how to do that moment to moment at my age. So when that structure, you're really great at creating foundations, Cynthia. You're really, really good at that. So anyway, I'm so honored that I was able to spend time with you, and I'm going to pray that lots and lots of people listen to this, and lots of women, and believe me, I'll be pushing it out to make sure lots of people who I'm really connected to listen to it. And so thank you for your intelligence and your creativity and all your love you bring to my block, my hood, my city, to the city of Chicago, and to our world. You're really creating change and making a difference. So
thank you. Thank you so much.
Bless your beautiful heart.
Thank
so
you too. And
I want to tell,
however I can help you going forward.
Oh, you're fabulous. Yeah. Well, you never know. I might make the call.
Absolutely.
So, and I want to help you. So I've got my wheels turning too. So please follow My Block, My Hood, My City on Instagram, their YouTube channel. You'll be seeing more of Cynthia on both of those, we hope. And Facebook, and most importantly, also go to their website, formyblock.org, to stay connected and be part of all the goodness that they're making happen. You can also volunteer for some of the amazing projects you heard Cynthia speak about. And if you have the financial means, please, please donate. If you have connections that you're thinking about, please connect. Can people reach out to you, Cynthia? She's on LinkedIn, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
sure, absolutely.
you know, reach out to her, and please, you know, this is an organization that I really see is right now and in the future is going to totally transform Chicago. I'm going to end with, there was a census study, right, saying that Chicago was the most segregated city in our nation. So, and the intention of My Block, My Hood, My City is to create an interconnected city. And I just feel like that's going to be, what is that, like a beacon for the rest of our country. So I think that this model that you guys have created, I could see it really replicating, you know? And so I'm really excited for your future. I'm really excited for the future of your daughters and My Block, My Hood, My City. And thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.